Wrestling Unlimited. My name is Angel Ernest, and I'm going to be answering some questions today about wrestling in general, some WWE themed questions, some TNA themed questions, some questions about general wrestling, sometimes about specific wrestlers, stuff like that. So, without further ado, I'm going to start things off with the question of the day. Now, I'm doing the question of the day a little different than most people do. Normally they do it at the end or in the middle, but I'm going to start it off with this because I have a lot to say about this subject. So, the question of the day is, would you consider Zack Ryder's wrestling career to be nothing but a big waste of time for everyone? Disclaimer, I am a huge Zack Ryder fan. Probably the biggest Zack Ryder fan you will ever meet, and I promise you that. So, this breaks my heart to say, but yes, his wrestling career is a waste of time for everyone, especially him. So, some of you may know this, some of you may not know this. Zack Ryder has been in wrestling for, I think, good 9 years, if I am correct. And he started off as an edgehead, and he got a little bit of fan base there, but then he started losing fans once he debuted as Zack Ryder. So what happened was, he debuted as kind of a jobber. He was just kind of thrown in, like a lot of wrestlers are when they first start in WWE. They're kind of just like, oh, here's a match with this random person. But then, he started his own YouTube channel, which gave him a little bit of a fan base. He made a song, which gave him a little bit of a fan base. But it wasn't a lot. And then he became Kane's throw toy. Basically, Kane did whatever he wanted to Zack Ryder, and that was it. We liked Zack Ryder for the fact that he was just there to be a beating bag for Kane. And years go on, Zack Ryder wins the Intercontinental Championship and loses it the next day. WWE has not done enough with Zack Ryder, so it's been a waste of our time and his time. Why should he be in a company where people who just come up can have main event matches? But he's been there for so long and doesn't get anything. If I was Zack Ryder, I would quit, honestly. As much as I love him, I'd want him to quit. Go somewhere else where he could be the main event. He has the talent, he has the moves, but Zack Ryder is not something that WWE wants to put any energy into. They don't want to put any money into Zack Ryder. So what's the point of him being there? It's a waste of his time, our time watching it. So they need to either do something with him or let him go, do something else. So, next question is by Kevin Nemsmith, and the question is, could you live with a Miz Daniel Bryan WrestleMania event? Alright, so, can you do me a favor? Can you go get your PlayStation, your Xbox, whatever you play, put in 2K16, 2K17, whatever wrestling game you have that has the two of them, and put those two characters together and have your WrestleMania moment. Because if you were to ever have that in real life, you would end Daniel Bryan's career. You would end him ever being a wrestler again. But wait, that's already happened. Daniel Bryan can't ever wrestle. It's not realistic. Yes, there was an incident between him and The Miz, a lot of hatred, a lot of words between them. And during the interview, things got heated, and everyone wanted a match between the two because of how arrogant and cocky The Miz is. And Daniel Bryan is just as cocky, just as arrogant, but in a good way. So when you have the two butting heads like that, fans all over the world want to see that. But realistically, It's not going to happen. WWE is not going to put Daniel Bryan's life on the line for this. They could have The Miz feud anyone they want to because of how arrogant and cocky he is. But you can't have him facing some guy who is already retired because of injury. If you were to do something, make a feud between them, it would have to be only verbal. It would have to be maybe The Miz could get his matches screwed with by Daniel Bryan or something like that. That way you could actually have it. But an actual in-ring wrestling match, it's not practical, it's not realistic, it's not going to happen. Next question by Francesco Bruno. Thoughts on James Ellsworth's success over AJ Styles? Oh, this question gets me going. You see, I think it is pathetic that WWE has some guy who we've never even heard of before the last 4 months that he's, been there? No one knew who James Ellsworth was. And then all of a sudden he's on SmackDown. And he is main event. He's with Dean Ambrose. He's facing AJ Styles. He beat AJ Styles. Why is the WWE doing this? Why would they have some guy who's been there for 4 months face a main event guy, the world heavyweight champion? I mean, I could understand if he had some credibility somewhere else, like ROH, TNA, NXT, New Japan, stuff like that. If he was someone like Kevin Owens, like Finn Balor, Nakamura, or even AJ Styles himself, I could understand why you're putting him in the main picture right away. But you have this guy who no one's even heard about before WWE in the main event with Dean Ambrose and AJ Styles. Dean Ambrose is helping him win, so obviously he can't do it on his own. But it's making AJ Styles look weak, and it's making James Ellsworth even a bigger joke than he already is. So I've seen more memes of James Ellsworth on Facebook, Twitter, just all over the internet, than I have matches of his. I've looked up matches of his before, and it's not really credible. No one really knew who he was, and no one really cares who he is. He's just a big joke. Everyone claims they love him and that it's great that a guy with no chin can be in wrestling. But realistically, it's wasting people's time. Why don't they have big names facing each other instead of James Ellsworth and AJ Styles? Why don't they have Dean Ambrose, AJ Styles, or, other members of the Shield versus AJ Styles? It would make a lot more sense than continuing this James Ellsworth thing. I personally do not like him. I could see him maybe being a United States champion, an Intercontinental champion, but not World Heavyweight or Universal. Just does not make sense in my head. Next question by Tom Collier. Should the Hardy Boys return to WWE? Yes. On one reason. If TNA was to actually close down and go bankrupt, like apparently they have been, then yes, I could see the Hardy Boys coming back to WWE. But for now, when TNA is still running, they should keep them in TNA, because if it wasn't for them in TNA, TNA would be shit. TNA would already be bankrupt. They'd already be out of business. But with broken Matt Hardy, yeah, sure, Jeff's there, but whatever. With broken Matt, everyone, and I mean everyone, is watching TNA. Everyone knows the obsolete, the delete chants. Everyone knows that. You go to any wrestling event, and they will be chanting, delete, 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 obsolete, 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 because of Matt Hardy. So why would TNA want to get rid of them? Why would they want to go to WWE yet? If TNA was to go broke, then I can understand it. But WWE would have to keep their characters, because if they didn't keep their gimmicks, then it'd just be a waste of everyone's time, because everyone loves it. But unfortunately, WWE likes to make everything kid-friendly, so they would probably change their gimmicks. So if they were to go to WWE, they would have to keep their gimmicks, and TNA would have to be bankrupt or whatever. But if all those things happen, then yes, bring them to WWE. Next question by Matt Meffy. Do any of the remaining 2016 pay-per-views particularly excite me? No, they really don't. So, a lot of the matches that are happening are basically the same things we've seen over and over and over again. I'm sick of seeing Charlotte versus Sasha. I'm sick of seeing those types of matches. The matches that we've seen over and over and over again. It doesn't excite me when it's something I've seen a million times. If it's something new and exciting and they're bringing back people and they're making new matches we've never seen before, then yes, I would be excited for it. But overall, I'm not really excited for it. The only pay-per-views I'm really excited for most of the time is SummerSlam and WrestleMania. That's about it. Because you know that something's going to happen during one of those, and it's going to be great. Next question. What do you think the Universal title match will be at WrestleMania? Personally, I really hope it's Finn Balor versus Kevin Owens. I've been a huge Balor fan since he was in NXT, so I was really happy when he won the Universal title. Really, really happy. But then he was injured, so he lost it, unfortunately. But in reality, as soon as he comes back, that title is going back around his waist, around his shoulder, wherever he wants to put it. That title belongs to Finn Balor, and I will be extremely happy if he comes back during WrestleMania, regardless of whoever's actually scheduled, and takes his title back. It'll be great, the fans will go crazy, I'll go crazy, and it'll just overall be a great match. Those two in the ring, I feel, could be really great, because Finn Balor typically has like a high-pace wrestling skill, and Kevin Owens is typically a slower-paced wrestler. So to see those two work together would be really great, in my opinion. Best live event I've been to, also by Matt Meffy. I'd be a little biased, but I'm gonna have to say that my favorite live event that I've ever been to, that was also the best, would be the NXT TakeOver. So before a couple weekends ago, I wasn't a big NXT fan. I mean, I watched the odd matches depending on who was actually wrestling each other, but overall I didn't watch that much. When I got to the arena, when I got to my seat, when the matches actually started, my eyes were glued to that ring the whole entire time. We had great seats, the audience was great, every match was great. I can't express how wonderful that whole experience was. So I particularly loved the Asuka versus Mickie James match. I was screaming, I was up in my seat. I honestly was so amazed that I was seeing Mickie James in person, because you had the old school, one of my favorite when I was younger, Mickie James, against the new school, one of my favorites now, Asuka, facing each other. Two generations of wrestlers facing each other for the title, the NXT Women's title. Because, you know, Asuka has been such a powerful, powerful woman. No one has really beaten Asuka. I mean, people have come close. She's obviously lost some matches, like, it's gonna happen. But overall, no one can really beat her. So I was amazed that Mickie James had her pinned several times, and I honestly thought Mickie James, of all people, could have beaten Asuka. It's a shame she didn't, so I'm excited to see what NXT does next with the women's title, and see who can actually take it off of Asuka. The other match that I absolutely fell head over heels for, and went absolutely crazy for, was the Joe Nakamura match, because, you know, at some points we thought that Nakamura was going to win, and then Joe was going to win, and then Nakamura was gonna win, and then Joe was gonna win. It was never, oh, this person's for sure gonna win. It was back and forth, non-stop. Sometimes I was cheering for Nakamura, sometimes I was cheering for Joe, but overall I was really hoping that Joe was going to win the NXT title, which he did, so that was pretty cool. I got up out of my seat and I was screaming and yelling and cheering. It was just great because the crowd was so energetic and so upbeat. So next question, what was my worst live event that I've been to? It was a holiday tour, and there wasn't a lot of big names there. It was kind of thrown in. We got tickets because my family's going to be in Toronto anyway, so it's just kind of like, oh, let's go to a wrestling event while we're here. But overall, the matches were pretty crappy. The audience wasn't really into it, and there was actually a fight beside me, well, underneath me, and people were cheering for these guys, drunk, fighting each other, more than they were cheering for the actual matches. So it just made it for a really bad experience because my eyes were on them instead of on the ring, where it should have been. The matches weren't that great. It was actually, the matches went less time than they were supposed to. So I think it was supposed to be like a 2.5 hour show, and it ended up being a little under 2 hours. So it was kind of boring. I didn't really like it. Where I was sitting, you could see most of the spots and stuff, and you could just tell how staged it was. And that's not something a wrestling fan wants to see. Overall, it was a really, really bad experience, and I'm really glad that I've been to other events where it boosted that wrestling side of me more, because if I was just to go to, say, that live event, I'd probably never want to go to a live event again, honestly. Next question by Kevin Nugent. Should New Day turn heel again? Yes. But after they lose their titles, because then that gives them a reason to turn heel. So if they were to lose their titles after they win the longest reigning tag team championship, I would love to see them turn heel. So then they can get their title back regardless of who they are facing. It'd be pretty cool to see them turn heel because since New Day started, they've been basically the high beat, energetic guys that you see running around all the time. You see them always with their dancing music, always with their trumpet, but if they were to turn heel, I wonder how different that would be. Would they still have their upbeat music? Would they still have their trombone? Would they still be energetic? Or would they be angry and aggressive and powerful? I'd love to see that. Kofi Kingston has typically been the joke, kind of crazy gimmicks. Xavier Woods, I really only remember him as a New Day character. Big E, I loved him when he was with Dolph Ziggler, because he was this big tough guy, and then they turned him into this crazy, silly, big guy who loves to dance and likes to shake his butt. So it'd be nice to see them go heel again, but stay together, because they have such great chemistry, and they work so well together. Next question. Do you think Cesaro will be used better on SmackDown? Personally, they can just get rid of Cesaro. I'm not a big fan. I never have been. The only thing I found somewhat entertaining was when they had, can't even think of her name right now. It was like Teddy Long's ex-girlfriend and him, and they had that storyline. I also really liked his, Sheamus matches. That was decent. But overall, I really didn't like Cesaro since the day he stepped in the ring. Do you think Triple H will face Rollins at Mania by Matthew Mullins? It'd be interesting, I'd say, because Seth Rollins has typically been he's been the authority's bitch, basically. So, Rollins has done everything for the authority. He's never tried to really cross them. He's always been there for them. So to see Rollins and Triple H would be great. I know Triple H has faced other guys from the Shield, so to see him face the last guy of the Shield, and maybe even have the Shield actually reuniting, because they've all faced Triple H. So if they had them all together, beating the crap out of Triple H, I would absolutely love it. I don't know if they'll have it at Mania, possibly somewhere else down the line, but it'd be a really good match regardless. Do you see the Big Show finally retiring after a possible Mania event against Shaq? As much as this hurts me to say, I kind of hope Big Show does retire. He's been such a big part of my childhood growing up. I've always loved seeing the big guys wrestling. And when he had that fake retirement where he had a match versus career with someone, I was really sad to see him almost leave. But in reality, he is getting older. He's not on as much, so I wouldn't be upset if it was against Shaq, because I know they have a feud going on between the two. So it'd be kind of interesting to see where it goes and what happens. And if that is his last match, I hope he wins. Because we all know Big Show's Mania win streak. It's not very good. So hopefully they can make it a little better for us. Hopefully they can make it entertaining for us. Next question. Why isn't Zack Ryder being pushed right by the WWE? I kind of already explained this earlier. Basically, the WWE doesn't know how to actually handle Zack Ryder. They just want to make him look ridiculous, make him look like the bottom group of wrestling, and that's what they're doing. I wish they would push him. I wish he could have had a longer intercontinental reign, but it's just not going to happen, unfortunately. So there's been a whole bunch of questions about plexiglass by Brett Lickey. So most of these are joke questions, but some of them I actually found kind of interesting and made me think a lot. So first joke question from Brett Lickey that I'm going to answer. Alright, would the... Hang on. Sorry, give me 1 second. Do you think they ever tested using plexiglass instead of ropes on the ring? No, I don't think they did. But if they were to ever use plexiglass, I feel like it would be a waste of their time, because the ropes give so many great moves. Rey Mysterio could never do his 619 if he didn't have the ropes. So, would you want to see Rey Mysterio not do that move? No. If the next sex celebration featured only Hornswoggle and Awesome Kong, would it demolish the history of ECW One Night Stand? If so, how? I feel yes, for the simple fact that I'd be very confused on how the hell they're having sex. Why would those two, of all people, we have the midget Hornswoggle and the giant Awesome Kong. How does that work? What position would they have to be in? I feel like it would outbeat ECW's One Night Stand, because I'd be so intrigued and couldn't take my eyes off of what the heck was happening in front of me. I want to know how this is happening, why it's happening, and why am I watching it? So, yes, I do believe it would. Would you be in favor of a partnership between Monday Night Raw and ramen noodles? Yes. I think it'd be hilarious, honestly, if they had, instead of the ropes, it was, made up with, noodles. If they somehow made maybe the turnbuckles look like noodles. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what they would do if they actually had ramen noodles against Raw. Tag team, partnership, whatever you want to call it. It'd be funny. Would a pay-per-view be cool if it costed $30 but was only 5 minutes? The price would be lovely. If I could get tickets for $30 for any seat, that'd be great. But if the show was 5 minutes, it'd be a waste of my time to drive to wherever the heck it is, sit down, and basically leave already. What would the matches even be? It'd be pretty sad, be a waste of my time, and I just wouldn't be for that. As a woman, what is your opinion on intergender matches? Do you think historically that men have been reckless with women in the ring for one reason or another? Personally, I loved when Beth Phoenix was in the ring for the Royal Rumble with all the guys, and I loved when Karma was in the ring with all the guys for Royal Rumbles, and I just overall loved those matches because a woman was in the ring with men. I feel that now that the women are starting to get better credit in the wrestling world, that it'd be great to see a girl like Charlotte beat a guy. It'd be great to see a woman like Nia Jax beat a guy. It'd be great to have more intergender matches. I noticed in NXT when I was live at TakeOver that they did have a girl in a faction with some guys, and she was beating this guy, and it was kind of cool to see her kicking butt. So I wish WWE would do more of that, but yes, I do realize that typically females are considered less strong, they are considered weak, fragile, stuff like that, compared to guys. Guys are typically the stronger sex, they're more powerful, stuff like that. So they don't want women to face guys who are a lot powerful and stronger than them. But if you think about it, there is some weaklings in WWE. There's some guys that typically you wouldn't want to throw in with Undertaker. Like, for example, would you want James Ellsworth to face The Undertaker? No, because he'd be squashed like a bug. But if you have, say, James Ellsworth face Sasha Banks, it'd be a good match because they are about the same level. They're built the same way and stuff like that. So it'd be kind of cool to see if WWE will ever do that. I know it's more of a more of a chance that'll happen because of gender equality and stuff. So we'll see what WWE actually brings to the table and what happens in the future. Anyway, so that was the last question. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry if I ranted too much about certain things, but peace out.